Okay, welcome everyone to Home Office Hours Live with Vistaprint. Thank you so much for joining us. So you might notice I am not the regular host, Corey. She is out today, so I will be doing my best to fill in. Home Office Hours is a series of live discussions on timely topics that we have put together where we talk to guest speakers and sometimes our own Vistaprint experts. We know small business needs have changed during these trying times and we wanted to help. So we created Home Office Hours as a way to connect and share advice. Today we have a special episode, so let me just do some housekeeping. We'll take questions at the end of the session. Feel free to submit those questions throughout using the Q&A feature. If you're on Zoom and if you're on Facebook Live, just comment and we'll aggregate those. The recording is also going to be available on Vistaprint's YouTube channel later today, and it'll be emailed out to all you Zoom registrants. So let's get to it. Today, I'm excited to introduce our guest host, Brittney Oliver. She's the founder of Lemons to Lemonade, an event platform that brings together career professionals and entrepreneurs. Hello, Brittney. And I'm just here for the intro. So she's going to lead the panel discussing business lessons learned in 2020 and how to turn those lessons into 2021 strategies and goals. She's going to be joined by Bridgid Coulter, founder and CEO of Blackbird House. Hello, Bridgid. And Mandy Bowman, the founder of Official Black Wall Street. Hello, Mandy. I'm very excited to hear this discussion. I hope you are as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brittney.
Hi, everyone. We're so excited to be here today to chat with you about lessons learned, what a year 2020 has been. And we have some amazing founders, entrepreneurs that are going to just walk us through what the year has been for them. And they're going to give us some insight and some tips on strategy to move the way forward for 2021, because it's all about what's next, right? So we're going to move forward and goal setting. So a little bit more about Lemons to Lemonade before we start to kick off. Lemons to Lemonade was founded in 2016 as a platform for content and events to help us navigate some of our career and business challenges as minorities. And so today we have a special curated conversation with you that we partnered with Vistaprint to bring. So thank you so much for partnering with us. So we have Mandy and we have Bridgid. And before we kick off, I want you ladies to share with everyone a little bit about your business. Give a description of what you both do.
Yeah, so I can kick it off real quick. I'll keep this as short and concise as possible. But my name is Mandy, and I'm the founder and CEO of Official Black Wall Street. I started Official Black Wall Street unofficially maybe 5 or so years ago. I always get that number mixed up, but it serves as a platform for people to find and support Black-owned businesses all around the country and then in 10 other countries around the world. So we have an app on Google Play and app stores where you can search for Black-owned businesses across different categories, locations. We also have businesses overseas as well if you're traveling in the future after Rona. So yeah, I'm super excited to be here.
I'm so excited to be with you, Mandy and Brittney, and appreciate this opportunity to talk, and that Vistaprint is supporting conversations like this means a lot because this is an unprecedented time, but we'll get into that. I am Bridgid Coulter. I'm founder and CEO of Blackbird House. We are a digital life work balance space. It started in Culver City, 2018. We started our first pop-ups and then we launched our location in November 2019. And we are a space for women of color and allies. It's a positive professional women of color space for work-life balance, as I said, and also empowering each other to make a better place for ourselves and the planet. Our pillars are based in productivity, wellness, community, and activism. And we've had an incredible time kind of launching, and then we'll kind of go into the questions that Brittney has for us.
Well, ladies, thank you for sharing with us what your business is. So my first question to you is, what was one major concern or an obstacle that you both faced this year with your business that you were able to kind of overcome this year?
So I can jump in. For me, it was the workload and just expanding very quickly. So over the summer, especially with like the Black Lives Matter movement and everything being heightened by that and the pandemic, there was this huge surge of people who were looking to buy Black and support Black-owned businesses. And our platform went viral. So we had hundreds of thousands of people signing up, following our social media pages, downloading the app. And during that time, I was a solo entrepreneur. So it was myself, and I had interns, and I had someone else who worked on partnerships. So for the most part, I was wearing a million different hats and doing a million different things at the same time. So I was literally working 18-hour days, like getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning and reaching for my laptop, and then I would just immediately start working. I would have to have my friends remind me to eat. So it was just a really challenging and stressful point in my entrepreneurial career. And for me, one thing that really helped me was leaning on my friends in my support group. And for me, I'm someone who, it is very hard for me to ask someone for help. But my friends, luckily, were very good at just giving me their services and their attention, and not just helping as much as they could with everything that I was doing. So I literally had one friend who was helping me with hiring other people and reaching out to different prospects to help just keep everything going. And the way that I guess the biggest lesson that I learned from that, and one thing that I wish I had done a little bit earlier, was just prioritizing having a team and not doing so many different things at the same time myself.
Right.
Yeah.
And for us at Blackbird, I think obviously the biggest challenge is we are a physical space made for gathering community together. And it's very difficult to do that when you can't safely be around each other. So for us, the biggest concern was we'd open this beautiful 12,000 square foot space in Culver City. I'm an interior designer, so I decked it out. I was like, this is the castle for us queens. And it was beautiful. And I tell stories in 3D. So because of my 15 years in design, that's kind of how I communicate. So when you walked into the space, you felt what Blackbird was immediately. It was an emotional experience for many. It's beautiful, it's warm. It's like you walked into a hug. The textures are soft. So for me, I was like kind of living this dream. And by March, we'd only been open 6.5, just about 7 months, and not even formally 7 months. We had a soft open in September. So I walked around the space March 1st, and it was this magical experience. We had a writer's room with 10 beautiful Black men working in a corner. We had our Latinx founders who are just badasses doing their work. We had all of the dreams that I wanted people, us women of color, to have this space that was ours, and our allies to come into a safe space that didn't exist in California at all. And I wanted to make this space. So our challenge was suddenly by March 13th, Friday, March 13th, we decided we're gonna close for 2 weeks. And that ended up being, now we're at 10 months. So our big challenge was we had a team, we had to figure out how to work remotely. We were all used to kind of being able to stop in someone's office. So to go from this physical space where we had events and people to completely turning digital was just, we made a pivot. And by March 16th, which was that Monday, our team met. We had a deep discussion about what we were gonna do, how we were gonna be safe. We all sat 20 feet, well, one was 20 feet, most were only 10 feet each other. We did not know what was going on. The information was unclear. We were not playing games. And we just started doing Instagram is the first thing we could do. We just jumped on and started doing virtual programming, and we started doing community testing. So the beautiful part of it is that for 2 months while we had the space, we were able to offer testing to founders and community in a way that it was very hard to get testing at that time. So we just went to being of service, And that was kind of how we took the pivot. It was very, very difficult. And then we had to move out during COVID. At one point, we were not extended anymore. Extensions, we had done a pilot location that was supposed to end May 1st, and we had to move out May 1st in the middle of a pandemic. It was very, very stressful. And my team pulled a miracle, but so that's kind of what 2020 has been. And then the positive out of that is we did about 50 events in the physical space, and we've done over 250 in the virtual in the last 10 months, and just been able to connect with community. So there's a lot of beautiful things that are coming out of it, but 2020 has been kind of a beast, to be honest.
Yeah. And both of you had very extreme pivots. For Mandy, you went from being pretty much like a solopreneur to now seeing immense growth and having to figure out how to build a team rapidly to meet those demands that were driving your business, which is a great, it's a good problem to have, right? And then for Bridgid, you're having to pivot from creating this community in a physical location and interacting with your members and your staff to now having to figure out how do we create digital activities, programs, and communicate with each other digitally while, meeting these stay-at-home orders and mandates that, your state has had. So, wow. But pivoting has been the theme this year for so many of us. And I wanted to just share a stat with you all right now. So reports show that over 40% of Black-owned businesses have shut down due to the coronavirus pandemic, compared to 17% of white-owned companies. So I want to ask both of you, with you both having businesses that are somewhat membership-based and you attract other entrepreneurs and founders, how are you able to pivot to meet your goals but be accommodating to other members and their needs of finances, because a lot of us were hit financially during this time?
Yeah, I can start on this one because it was definitely a something that we think about all the time, and we think about daily, actually, still, as we have team meetings, like how do we approach this and still be of service, because we know the value that we have, but we know how hard it is to attain it. So the first thing that I did, which wasn't necessarily the smart CEO thing to do, but nobody paid membership fees starting in April. There was no charging for membership fees. We started doing all of the programming. We opened the program. We started with the free bird. So we had our first members just transfer over and just was of service. Now, part of it is I had a runway, because if you don't have runway, you can't do that. And my goal was to keep all my employees as long as I could. Even as the big fortune companies were laying off people, I was like, no, we got to keep everyone, because even our staff and team are people of color, and we're the hardest hit. So the other thing that we had to do when we were pricing the community, as we started to get more content, running a digital space is very expensive, as I'm sure Mandy knows. So we had to start coming up with ways that we could be of service and have these offerings, but come up with a very variety of price points that were accessible. So we have a scholarship that we offer. We also have our annual memberships, and we just kind of priced our tiers under $35 for a monthly, or it's like under $20 if you buy an annual. So we just thought of that. And then as we go into physical space in probably end of Q1, beginning of Q2, if people can get their act together with the pandemic, we're really conscious of that. And we worked on working on sponsorships, and again, always having scholarships. And the other thing that we did was so Blackbird is a for-profit corporation. That was really important to me, that women of color, we are sustainable. We as people of color, in the 2018 stat is, I think, $3.9 trillion we give to the economy, and we don't get back 20% of that doesn't even come back to us. And that's heartbreaking. So in order to have shared economy and find each other, we need Mandy's resource. We need Blackbird House. We need places where we can find each other and support each other. Not that we're cutting everybody else out. It's just a matter of making sure we at least are intentional with how we spend money. So one thing that, the other part of it that we did was really just thinking about that. Like, how does that look? What does that mean? How do we find each other? How do we support each other? And we highlight our members and connect each other. So those are some of the things from our perspective.
Yeah, for us, we did something similar where with our membership, we kind of cut it down drastically. So before, where it was a monthly fee, this year we cut it down so that, for 2020, it's just a one-time $50 fee for everyone. We also wanted to make sure that we were helping business owners in other ways with resources or just with helping them minimize their business fees. So we did a lot of collaborating and partnering with larger companies to help minimize those things. So for example, we secured a partnership with a global law firm called BakerBots, where they were gracious enough to offer all of our Black entrepreneurs free legal services for the next 3 years. And if you're an entrepreneur, you know that those legal fees, they add up very quickly. So we were very happy to do that. And, just finding, even outside of that, just finding any other added value that we could give through different workshops, collaborating with other entrepreneurs who specialize in different areas, whether it be marketing or sales or customer service, just to try and give the entrepreneurs on our platform as many resources as possible to help them navigate this time, since none of us knew what was going on. It was, of course, a new normal. We've heard that so many times. So our priority was definitely just trying to give as much resources as possible, and then, strategic partnerships to make that happen.
And I would like to chime in on that too. I actually signed into Mandy's platform because I thought it was so important, and it's one of the ones we highlighted. So it's about highlighting each other as well, and knowing that, because it's vital. There are not enough resources to support the amount of us. As we know, even Black women entrepreneurs are still the #1 growing entrepreneur, but we don't necessarily have all the resources to thrive in the way that we should. And to that point, we did partnerships as well with some organizations to do training. And we started a nonprofit arm where it just launched in June. Even though the profit side, I saw the disparity and realized we need another arm. And for that, we're doing programming for just out of college youth that will be able to help with that kind of gap that you get, the help you get through college and high school. And high school, get to college, and then a lot of us are just left floating. Like, you graduated, we got you, go get it. And so we're trying to help bridge that space right now and bring our entrepreneurs together with mentees and mentors and do some work in that way. So I love that partnering part, and I wanted to chime in on what Mandy said about that, because it's vital that we all connect with each other.
I love that piece, Bridgid, about filling in that gap after college, because you're right. And today's college students really graduated in the unknown. And so that's really important. So thank you for doing that. And Mandy, I want to kind of continue this conversation on partnerships. One thing that you were able to do was raise money this year through pitch competitions and grants. So you've received grants from like JP Morgan Chase, Advancing Black Pathways, Beyonce's Be Good, NAACP, Shea Moisture, and so many others. Why is this a good route for businesses right now, looking for additional money during this time?
Oh, a few reasons. So one, at this point, there are so many resources out there for Black entrepreneurs. I follow a couple of different newsletters that always has a list of different grants, and I apply to so many every month. One, because it's non-dilutive funding, so it's not like you have to give away a piece of your business or give away any equity. But two, it's also an amazing way to just have funds set to the side for anything that you need to continue operating your business and to make sure that it continues growing. So for me, I haven't even gotten into the our pre-seed round yet. But for me, it was super important for us to maximize, do as much as we could without giving away equity. And grants was definitely a really great way to do so, especially because, with everything that's happened this year, there's this major focus on Black-owned businesses, as there should be, and finally. And there are all of these grants and programs for us. So I would definitely advise anyone, go out and look for these different grants. I have a Google Alert set up. Where it's just, for the word grant. So anytime there's anything posted with the word grant, it comes to me, and I'm able to see, what kind of grants are open, especially for Black entrepreneurs for that month. So I would definitely say, it's super important.
That's a really great tip, to set those alerts so that you can continue to see those opportunities. And Bridgid, I want to ask you, because you have a co-working, space. It's a venue, it's a physical space. What is your advice for people who have like these brick and mortar spaces, or even a co-working venue, at the moment, for finding ways to pivot? And what is your projection for your particular industry when it comes to marketing, growth, and revenue this year?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Brittany. I think this is frankly one of the most challenging times if you have a space. To have a space and have that kind of overhead and not be able to operate can be pretty devastating. So I want to first honor the fact that I had for some reason signed up for a temporary lease because I wanted to do this as a pilot location, and we were planning to move into our flagship May 1st. So we were moving from one to the other, but because of the pandemic, we did not sign the second lease. So I have the benefit of not having that overhead. So at the moment, we're floating fully in the digital. And I do believe had we had that, those headaches are really, really difficult. So one thing that we tried to do as a space, or that we've been doing as a space, is reaching out to other independent spaces. We're on some groups, there's group chats where you talk about different resources and ways to try to make it through this. But to be frank, if you have a space right now and you can't fill it and you don't have a long runway, this is going to be a challenge. So I don't know there's any easy answer for that. But for those of us audacious enough to believe that 2021, at some point, we're going to be back into community. And I think that space and connection and human interaction is important. I do think we're going to always be hybrid, but some of the spaces have done things that I think are really creative, creating not necessarily just Zoom rooms, but places where you can leave your house and go one-on-one and record your podcast if you're just tired of, finding a new room and a new background or the noise of, I have a very open plan house. So that's very challenging. So either being creative with your tech and your digital, creating mail services, but for the outlook on 2021, I think if you can get grants, like Mandy said, if you have investors, I'm a bootstrap self-funded business. So I luckily just had some great years where I was able to bank and we were able to do creative things to get through this time. But if you can, I think that the world is going to open up in a great way. And as we see, as companies say, you're going to work remotely forever, we're all like, it's lovely to be home and there's such a convenience. And I took a bath lunch a couple weeks ago and I was like, wait a minute, this whole working from home thing's not so bad, that you can't do if you're in an office. But the ability to make partnerships with certain corporations who aren't going to keep those huge headquarters gives us an incredible opportunity to be a hybrid space, a part-time. So we're looking at memberships that allow you to come a couple days a week and just being flexible. We are a curated space and we're really intentional. But the members who come and the people who want to be a part of this type of space, that's about diversity and inclusion. And that's about just, opportunities and acceptance and wellness. We put wellness right into our space. We had meditation lofts and all of that. I think we are set up to be very, have a great venue for that. And I think other co-working spaces can look to that and really be creative in tech. So we're always going to be digital because it's so wonderful and we can have a global presence, but we're going to be hybrid. So if someone can have an event and maybe only 10 or 25 people can be at the event because of restrictions, but you can broadcast it to and have all the professional services you need. So there's a lot of great opportunities. And we're working with an acoustician who did the African American Museum and who's doing Obama's a library to help us come up with this. And he's working on a software that does this sound that just gives you this connection like you're there. So we're working to kind of bring in some high-end tech that gives you that, because the tech is great, but if it doesn't feel like people, if it doesn't feel like you're connected, it won't matter as much. So there's a lot you can do, and there's a lot of hope and promise. And I think the outlook looks good coming over the next 5 years, but it's just being patient and trying to be careful with the leases you sign. Oh, and that's the last thing I will add to this is put pandemic or COVID language in your leases. Come up with a partnership with your landlords. This is just not a time to go it alone. This is all the time to partner, join with other independents, and that's kind of what we're looking at.
Wow, I love those tips. And definitely in the future, we're going to be hybrid. And so thinking of ways to incorporate digital and physical with that limited attendee number is so important. So thank you so much for sharing that insight. And Mandy, I would love to get your thoughts as someone who, works with several different Black-owned businesses through, official Black Wall Street. What are your thoughts and projection for 2021 when it comes to marketing growth and revenue? And how can directories like yours help?
Yeah, I'm along the same lines of what Bridgid said. I'm optimistic about what 2021 will bring. I think this year was it was a very odd year, and especially for a lot of business owners, it seems like things were on very, very opposite ends of the spectrum, where I know a lot of Black entrepreneurs who did really awesome this year. And I know a lot of, 40% of Black-owned businesses that had to shut down in just a 4-month period. But I'm really hopeful just in the fact that there was so much attention put on Black-owned businesses, especially this year. And anytime I do an interview, I always have to stress that Black-owned businesses, like, these problems did not just start existing. Like, they've always had these issues. They've always needed, this assistance, especially when you look at the financial institutions and how much support we get from them. But I'm really hopeful with the amount of support that Black-owned businesses have gotten this year. And along those lines, I think that we will, with Black people in general, we're always a community that will continue going onward and upward, regardless of what is in front of us. So I definitely think when it comes to that things will get a lot better in the near future. I think that we have a lot of new tools, and I think one good thing to come out of this is that technology is now more of a priority for a lot of businesses. And in the past, I mean, there are studies that show, I believe, that the rule of 7, where it's like someone has to see your business at least 7 times before they want to make a purchase. And so I'm always telling business owners this, because I'm like, you need to be online, they need to see you. And so I feel like that's one positive that will come out of this year. Just people, even those who have storefronts, taking a look at what they can do online, when it comes to e-commerce, and making sure that if they can't operate physically or in a physical location, that they can still bring in some revenue online. So I think that's a good thing, because we definitely need to do more in technology. So I'm pretty hopeful.
I think we all are. So I love the projections both of you had. I think we just have to embrace where we are now, and that's digital and incorporating technology in the way that we move forward in 2021. I love that. So to wrap things up, I have one more question for you ladies. And it seems like someone also sent this question in the Q&A, so it's the same question, but what is the most important lesson that 2020 has taught you both about being an entrepreneur and a business owner this year?
Sorry, that's a great question. both audience member and Brittney. I think, you know, resilience is really resilience and introspection. If you take this time that we were all forced to be quiet as a whole planet in March, April, the whole planet was quiet. The air was clean. We people were connecting. If I can think of 2020 and go, yes, it was tough. And there were times and there's a lot of lost sleep. And like Mandy, I think knowing that as an entrepreneur, you just work like 14 to 18 hours a day. There's no way around it. You're always thinking of it. You wake up in the middle of the night, make a note. So as an entrepreneur, I learned that like no one's going to care about your baby. Everyone can care about your baby, but you're the one that is shepherding it through. So, pull up your big girl pants and, get to work, because it can start as a love thing, but the resilience that you have is in you. Know yourself. If you don't know, if you have questions, trust your instincts. That quiet voice inside of you that says, I have something to say and I think I have a way to do it, is always right, always, always right. And that means different things for different people. Take your time, nap when you need to, take a break. I took several weeks off in between all of this when it was too busy to do it, because our mental, physical, and emotional health is so important. And that's one thing, like, physically, I don't always do what I need to do for that. Do it. There's nothing but your health that matters, breath that matters. It's been a year around breath, around resilience. It's been uprisings that needed to happen so that people of color could what we've known all of these years and what we've seen, that it is now seen by everyone. And it's not just we're not making this up. We're not gaslit anymore. So I think understand, trust, believe, and what you have to say is valuable, even when that imposter in your brain is telling you, why are you even doing this? Because we all have, not we all, but I know I have that. Even if my accomplishments on paper look amazing, inside I still have that little girl who's like, will people listen to me? So I think it's taught me to just go true, even when I'm afraid, to keep going. And that's what I want other people to know. And I want people to know that we can get through this, that we just have to be careful, be safe, be resilient. So that's sort of my 2020 and 2021 is like, let's just go, y'all.
Yes, love it. You all be resilient. That's a really great tip. Mandy, what are your thoughts?
My goodness. The two biggest ones, one, having a great community and knowing how to ask for help when you need it, because we all need it. But for me, if I could go back in time, one thing that I would do differently, which I mentioned this earlier, is I would have prioritized looking for teammates. And especially hiring for different areas that were critical for like the day-to-day, but also that were critical for, if I want to take a day off, I at least have someone here who can fill in and who can make sure that everything is still running. So I would say that was one of my biggest lessons, especially this year when I was working crazy hours. I remember my friends would call me and I would literally just burst into tears, like no words said. I was just that tired. So yeah, definitely prioritizing community, making sure you feel connected to those around you. And I would say exactly what Bridgid just said. This was I think the first year that I made it my mission to prioritize self-care. So taking time for myself, not working on weekends, not feeling guilty about it or trying not to feel guilty about it. And making sure that every single day I'm doing something that feeds myself, whether it be mentally, physically, spiritually, and just making sure that I have that kind of balance, because as an entrepreneur, it's so easy to get lost in the day-to-day of what you're doing and you kind of forget about yourself. So I would say just making sure that I am a priority as well, especially as the founder and CEO of the company. And I had to drill that through my head, like, no, you are the most important person in this team. Take care of yourself. So I would say those two things, just community and also the self-care part.
Love it, ladies. Those were really big lessons learned for all of us. And I just want to kind of recap some of our takeaways today. One major point that you both addressed was just embracing where we are today, really utilizing technology and digital resources to pivot your business. Another takeaway would have to be the self-care portion. Make no apologies. If you need to rest, rest. If you don't want to answer that email today, wait till tomorrow, but prioritize your health and your well-being. And lastly, find community and support. You know, have your group of friends or family members where you can lean on to step away if you need to cry, if you need to just have, you know, bounce ideas off of. Just find those communities. You, both of you have shared that you've gone to different communities to, you know, just bounce those ideas or just have your safe moments. And so those are really great, important takeaways for business owners moving forward. Thank you, ladies. And I hope everyone enjoyed today's conversation, and that while we think about and reflect on this year, that we move forward with resilience. You know, don't let this year stop you and the things that you desire for your business and way to grow. We're just pivoting right now and we're playing it by ear, but the way forward, we can make it our own. And so thank you, Bridgid. Thank you, Mandy. Thank you, Will, and Vistaprint for having this discussion with us today. And it was a really great honor to collaborate with you all.
Thank you so much to all of you. This was wonderful. As I said, this will be going up on the YouTube channel later. If you'd like to watch it again, we'll be emailing it out. We want help to know what was helpful about this discussion and what else we can do. So please do fill out the survey at the end and tell us about it. Tell us what other discussions you'd like to hear. You can also email us. You can find more resources at vistaprint.com/hub. Again, ladies, thank you so much. This was a wonderful conversation. Bridgid, Mandy, just great. Brittney, thank you so much for leading this. This has been Home Office Hours Live. My name is Will, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.